Hi, can you imagine a situation where you are just sitting at home and a NASA satellite falls nearby and brings with it a little alien Christmas present? Is that hard to imagine? Then I'll tell you a story. 6 years ago, NASA discovered the possibility of an extraterrestrial civilization within our solar system. A research space station was launched to collect samples, but crashed when it landed over Mexico City. After that, new life forms began to appear and the country was quarantined. To date, the situation has not changed much, with the Mexican and U.S. military continuing to fight against the creature's onslaught. Even during a night patrol, the military was attacked by another creature, which was defeated with an airstrike. An American journalist photographer Calder wants to do a report on the events near the zone from the Mexican side, but his boss, the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, assigns him to find his daughter Samantha, who suffered a hotel crash and is stranded in Mexico. He found her and made sure she was safe, only that wasn't the main problem Calder faced, because after the call his boss demands he escort his daughter back to America and try to bring home at least some pictures. The locals don't so much live in these places as they survive. Calder buys train tickets and before boarding, her father asks his daughter to call her husband John, but she changes the subject by giving the phone to Calder, who is again reminded of the value of his mission. And just inside the carriage, he notices that Samantha has been married. Near the end of their journey, the train driver announces that the train will have to be turned around, so our characters leave the train to continue their journey forward. However, it is too dangerous to go at night, so they find the settlers and Samantha, using the skills of the Mexican language, arranges to let them stay overnight, and inside it turns out that in the direction they need to go, no cars go at night because of the creatures, and the main problem is that in 2 days they close the coast through which they have to sail, so they only have 48 hours or they are stuck here for another 6 months. That's why Calder takes photos of the kids in the morning for the article, and after taking the essentials from the hostess, they head out, where casual conversations about everything take place, and finally they manage to catch a ride that takes them to the bus stop. Calder confesses to her that he has to take pictures of tragedies. For example, they pay $50,000 for a picture of a child killed by the creature and nothing for a happy kid. They arrive at a place where the ticketing organization asks for $5,000, or they can go overland with the others, but they have to go through a quarantine zone, which means risking their lives. Calder doesn't like that and tries to negotiate down to $2,000, but in the end he agrees to $5,000 and buys a ticket for tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. When it starts to get dark, they are lucky enough to find a hotel room and Calder offers a drink, but the girl refrains from the offer and goes to shower, while Calder, contrary to all expectations, calls his son and wishes him happy birthday, and when Samantha comes out, he's lying that he got a call from reception to let him know the room was ready. However, the night was not going to pass in beds, so they go to the fair, after which the drunks returned to her room and Calder decided to flirt with her, after which he turned it into a joke and left not for his room but to continue his party. Samantha did decide to call her lover at the time, but there was no answer. And in the morning, when it was already past 7 o'clock in the morning, the police were getting ready to start a special operation, and Samantha invited Calder over for a morning cup of coffee, and when she noticed a girl in his bed, she thought she was running late and ran away. Calder catches up with her and finds out that she can't get on the ferry because he has her passport. He quickly returns and realizes that the passports are gone. They were robbed by that girl. They go back to the man who sells the tickets, but he can't help them today. The military has started a special operation and no ferry will depart from this port again. Then Samantha offers to go overland and he announces a price of $10,000 to pay the driver, bribe the authorities, hire guards, and get a profit for himself. Calder is willing to give everything he has just to get Samantha to go home, but alas, it is not enough, and then Samantha removes her diamond engagement ring and gives it to the man. Calder realized the value of the jewelry and in that case asked for 2 tickets and received consent. When they arrived at the border of the area, there were difficulties, but they were let through after all and were given papers with which they would be allowed to go absolutely everywhere. The person who was to transport them by boat objected to the small amount, but due to the eloquence of their escort, the captain of the boat agreed. Along the way they observed beautiful vistas that were both terrifying. They stopped at one of the banks to refuel, and Samantha decided to go to the bathroom, but from the depths of the forest there was a rumble of creatures, which as quickly began as quickly ended, so they continued on their way. Toward evening, however, their boat's motor failed, and as darkness descended, they noticed something in the distance, and Calder began to take pictures, so something headed straight for them. Then it peeked out of the water, and it turned out to be a fighter jet, which in a peak of silence, the tentacles wrapped around it and dragged it to the bottom. And after a few more attempts, the engine starts and they hastily leave the scene. They do not wake up until the next morning and consider the consequences of the contamination in the area, when suddenly the man leading the ship stops at the shore and sends them to his colleagues, with whom they continued on land. But a strange mooing was heard, and it turned out to be an ordinary cow. When they land for the night, they find that it is an hour-and-a-half drive to the Wall of America, but they will go there when they wait for another family. To pass the time, the guards tell tourists that they have seen creatures more than 100 meters long that move on land. In the water are the most dangerous creatures, but if you don't touch them, they won't touch you. The creatures feed on the poison dumped by American planes, which is why the area smells so disgusting. Their method of reproduction is insemination in trees, in which they leave eggs, after which the embryos go underground into the waters of the oceans and then return. When the guards went to bed, Calder helped Samantha bandage her arm, and she confessed that she was finally rid of that ring burden and thanked him from the bottom of her heart for everything he had done for her. He in turn apologizes for what he did that night when he was drunk and goes to sleep. But sleep does not last long, as the men hear gunshots over their radios and they get everyone up and into a pickup truck because their friends need help. But no one pays attention to the fact that Calder lost his camera. When they arrived on the scene, one of their cars had been taken out by a huge creature, so the others went into battle while Samantha and Calder stayed in the car. The monster overpowered all the guards and they had to sit up all night in the car, and when Calder got out of the car in the morning, in the outback he found a dead man and took his camera and mask from him. But then he saw what he had been looking for so long, a tragedy for which he would be paid enough money. And then Samantha shows up, who only notices him already covering up the body and taking the masks. And then they set off on foot to make their way through the slums, but Samantha needed to use the bathroom and noticed a temple, which they climbed up and saw that eighth wonder of the world, the Great Wall of America. The temple was a great place to stay in the morning they hit the road. There was no one at the frontier post, nor was the population in the nearest settlement. But there were fighters circling in the sky, so they were about to put on masks, and Calder gave her a better mask. As they walked past a few more houses, Calder captured the monster from several angles, and Samantha heard strange noises. It turned out to be a homeless woman with a shopping cart who proved insane on contact, and they dispersed. It was only 3 miles to the evacuation zone, and they finally spotted a light. The gas station appeared to be empty, and Calder called emergency services asking for help. The dispatcher promised to send them an army patrol. While waiting for rescue, they chatted about their dreams and decided to split up and call their families after all. And while Samantha was chatting, she noticed Calder had been told something unpleasant, after which he sadly lay down at the pumps. And there was a monster visible in the sky against the lightning. At first it flashed in the gas station windows, and when Samantha heard the doorbell she thought Calder had returned, but it was a creature. When she realized that it had come here for electricity, because it was literally feeding off the TV, she de-energized it and the creature began to move away from the gas station. But Calder realized that for a reason, there was a female, and as if after a strange mating, they very quickly dispersed in different directions to thunderclaps. Immediately Samantha admitted she didn't want to go home and they kissed, but they were taken to separate cars.